Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you all. So today we're coming back to Melffy Spright, which is not just, it's funny, I'll see some decks labeled as Melffy Spright here and there on the internet, and they're literally just a pure Spright deck with, you know, one Catty, one Pinny, Merry Melffys, and Herald of the Arclight and the extra, and like that's it. But when I say Melffy Spright, as you can see here, I mean just a full Melffy package. We have more than just the one Catty. We actually have three, a couple of Pinnies. We're also playing Wally, one Puppy, one Pony, and we have a couple of other level 2 beast monsters here. Silvervine Serni I'm still keeping in the main deck, although to be honest, this card does not really come up often at all. But it can potentially be useful for putting multiple level 2 monsters on the board, as we of course run a large variety of attributes among our level 2 monsters. I think we have an attribute, I think we have every attribute except for light represented amongst our level 2 monsters, so we do have that going for us, which is pretty nice. We also have the Hop Ear Squadron, which is a card I really like and have had my eye on for a little while now. I've kind of been thinking about maybe seeing if I can cook with this card a little bit. The recent success I've had with Punk Spright has got me thinking about that. Particularly the fact that this card is a level 2 tuner that can quick sync on your opponent's turn. It's also got 600 defense, so it's searchable by Cupid Pitch, so there might be something cute we can do with this, but that's for a different deck, not for this one. In any case, it's still good in this deck because it pretty much acts as a generic Melffy Penny, and we definitely like summoning our level 4 synchro monsters during our opponent's turn. The other non-Melffy beast we're rocking in this deck is one copy of Kalantosa, Mystical Beast of the Forest. This does not come up often at all, but very occasionally you can special summon this off of Melffy Puppy and blow up an opponent's card during their turn. It is targeted and it is destruction, so it's kind of like, you know, one of the weakest forms of removal, or rather it's one of the forms of removal that most cards tend to have protection against, but can still be useful. Didn't really come up during this round of testing, but there have been situations where I didn't play this card and wanted it before, so I figured I'd just go ahead and toss it in here. I don't think our last iteration of this deck played Rescue Cat, but we're not on it right now. I ultimately decided that it was better just to play more Melffy cards. Like, I think we were only playing like 2 Cat and 1 Penny before. Definitely wanted to fix that and put in more copies of these cards. And honestly, the Rescue Cat, it takes up a normal summon, and it is just so easily disrupted that I didn't think it was ultimately worth it. We are still playing the Nimble Beavers. This is the level 2 engine of choice here, because it not only works very well with the Spright cards, but is a level 2 beast itself, which can come up sometimes. It's searchable off of Catty. That's pretty much the main way that it comes up. Sometimes you might be able to grab it back with Pony as well, but again, just very niche, but still definitely can come up every now and then. We're playing Dimension Shifters in this deck because, well, we can. There's sometimes, though, where you open this card and, like, it kind of interferes with what you want to do on your turn 1 plays. It's really weird, right? In this meta, there are some times with this deck in particular where, like, it's kind of better to just hold on to Dimension Shifter rather than do your plays that would put stuff in the graveyard. Like, you obviously still want to put as much on the board as you can without putting cards in the graveyard, but I don't know, it kind of says something about the meta that we're in, where it's like, you would not only play Dimension Shifter in a deck where it's not always optimal, like where sometimes you do need your graveyard, but in addition to that, you'll abandon your strategy just to have a chance to shifter your opponent. But, you know, that's where we're at with tier limits and such, so not much we can do about it except to throw in these little counters for the meta here. Yeah, I mean, otherwise we've got, you know, standard Spright stuff. We have 3 blue, we have 3 jet, one of each red and carrot. We're playing, you know, some regular disruption stuff. For the extra deck, we are playing 2 level 4 synchros, Herald of the Arclight, and Merry Melffys. Actually, ended up finding myself rather going for Merry Melffys a lot more often than Herald of the Arclight in this testing session. This card's a great just disruption tool in general. It's generic, which means we don't even have to use Melffy Penny. We could just use Hop Ear Squadron, and it's a bounce during the opponent's turn. And honestly, sometimes the effect to go into Melffy of the Forest does actually come up, not only because Melffy of the Forest has higher defense, but sometimes this negate and then preventing a monster from attacking can come up after you've already gone into it with Merry Melffys. So some interesting forms of disruption. that is kind of like the reason to play Melffys here. You might kind of be thinking, well, like, well, why would I play, you know, if I can get away with a 2-card main deck Melffy engine in pure sprites, why would I lean more into Melffys? It's because Melffys actually have a lot of ability to recycle and provide further disrupts. They're not as generic as stuff like DD Crow or Triple Tax Talent or whatever meta call disruption you want to play, but it's more generically applicable and is also an engine in its own right, which is kind of like the advantage there. I do think Melffy Spright is, although it is like a rogue deck, definitely, I think it's got its own merit as its own unique Spright variant. I think that it tends to get overlooked a little bit as, again, people end up just throwing in like the bare minimum, but there is merit to playing the rest of them. Wally in particular, I mean, this card is just phenomenal. Being able to summon 2 Melffy monsters from the deck is very, very powerful. It's usually because we'll probably already have Catty on board, but if we don't, we'll grab a Catty. After that, you probably want to grab a Puppy, and then if you already have access to those, then you can just throw in a Pony there as well. As far as the rest of the extra deck, it's fairly standard Spright stuff. We do have the Cat Shark as well, just in case the OTK does end up coming up if our opponent has a clear board, which, given the fact that, you know, we have stuff like Merry Melffys to bounce our opponent's stuff, it's not, you know, it's not impossible by any means. So I think that just about covers everything I wanted to talk about with the deck. We'll go ahead and list it out card by card as we always do, and then take a look at some gameplay. So we're playing 3 Maxx, 1 Kalantosa, Mystical Beast of the Forest, 3 Nimble Beaver, 1 Hop Ear Squadron, 3 Melffy Catty, 1 Melffy Puppy, 1 Melffy Pony, 1 Silvervine Serni, 3 Spright Blue, 3 Spright Jet, 1 Spright Red, 1 Spright Carrot, 3 Melffy Wally, 2 Melffy Pinny, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Dimension Shifter, 2 Called by the Grave, 2 Spright Starters, 1 Spright Smashers, and then 3 Infinite Impermanence. There's our main deck. For the extra deck, we're going to be on 1 Herald of the Arc Light, 1 Merry Melffys, 1 Sky Cavalry Centurea, 1 Cat Shark, 1 Melffy of the Forest, 1 Onibimaru Soul Sweeper, 2 Gigatic Spright, 1 Downerd Magician, 1 Divine Arsenal, AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder, 1 IP Masquerena, 2 Spright Elf, 1 Knightmare Unicorn, and then 1 Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax. So that is going to cover our deck list. Now let's go ahead and look at some gameplay. For our first duel, we have a game up against RABBY'S. I've noticed lately that, I think I mentioned this in another video, but I noticed this right before the MCS Week 14 as well. There have just not been as many tier limits on ladder lately. I went up against a couple during this testing session, and I don't think I got any significant wins against them, but I just didn't run into that many in general. Like, I remember a couple of days ago, or no, it was just yesterday actually, I was looking at, both of my opponent and I are completely bricked up here. As you can see, I set 3 pass, my opponent did nothing pass. Now they're going to normal summon an Eaglin, but thankfully I've got a bunch of imperms down, so. But yeah, yesterday, I think I posted this on Twitter as well. I had looked at my last 20 games, because, you know, the match history in the duel room, right, where you see the ranked, where you can join ranked ladder, you go to match history, and, you know, you see the last 20 games you played. I looked at those, 3 of them in Diamond were tier limits. In Diamond, there was, like, I think I played against more Flow and Exo each in those 20 games than I did against tiers. So I think it's a combination of, like, you know, more people are getting more tired of playing with tier limits, kind of myself included, to be honest. Or really just playing endless tier mirrors, right? Like, tier mirrors are fun. I'm never going to argue that they're not. By the way, if you're wondering why I didn't use the second Imperm on the Eaglin, it was a misplay. There's no, like, there's no Galaxy Brain play why I didn't or anything. It's just, it was a complete misclick. But, yeah, I don't know. As far as tier limit mirrors go, right, they're skillful. Some people argue that they're not. Some people argue that it literally comes down to who makes Dweller first. That's a complete misconception of how tier limit mirrors actually play out. It's my experience that I find myself making Dweller only about 50% of the time in mirrors. But in any case, despite the fact that I do think they are skillful and I do think they are fun in that regard, like, you know, I'm not the kind of person who can do that endlessly. And that's not to say people who like that are invalid. You know, I think if you have fun with tier mirrors and you really like this meta for that reason, like, I feel like people who have that stance kind of, like, feel the need to apologize for it, but I don't think that you should, right? Like, it's subjective. If you like this meta, you like this meta. That's okay. There's a lot of discourse in Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, hell, I made a whole video about, like, you know, how Yu-Gi-Oh! Complainers are complainers. I meant to say players, but complainers. Yu-Gi-Oh! Complainers are bad at complaining. Particularly when people have grievances with this game, they tend to air them in such a way that completely, like, miss the mark. And one of the most common ways they do that is to kind of, like, attack people for very subjective stances and opinions. And yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of people just kind of, like, shitting on people who like tier mirrors. There's nothing wrong with enjoying tier mirrors. It's okay to think that it's boring. It's okay to not like tier elements and to be totally frustrated with this meta, but, you know, as always as ever, that is not the fault of people playing tier elements. That is Konami's fault. Like, if you do not like this meta, you know, insulting people online who are playing tier elements is not the solution. I mean, it really never is, but wow, I ended up completely just talking over that game about not even the game itself, huh? But there you go, there was that game against Flanders. Like I said, it started off just really bricky, but thankfully I at least bricked by opening a bunch of disruption in the form of a couple of imperms. We did miss one of the imperms, which allowed our opponent to go into an impen, but we were able to use Merry Melffys, just bounce the impen right back, and it didn't ultimately end up affecting our ability to take the game. So there is that duel. Let's go ahead and go straight into the next one. So this duel is going to be against a Thunder Dragon Assault Synchron kind of synchro pile, which, I mean, we all know by this point how much I love Assault synchro piles. I was actually kind of like looking at my opponent's list just now and like taking mental notes. I kind of want to play around with it. Actually, my original iteration of Punk Spright also had a Thunder engine in it. Just the idea was that, you know, you could use Thunder Dragon's effects, but you could also go into Colossus with Sprites, or you could go into Colossus using Nemesis Corridor, but, you know, as I discussed in that other video, I almost only found that it was a little bit win more to try to go into Colossus that hard. Let's talk about this game, actually. Let's actually talk about a duel. So, I'm going to fire off Maxx during my opponent's draw phase. That way they, you know, if they have triple attack, I can play around that. I tend to see about as much triple attacks as I do call buys in this meta, so unless I have Spright Elf on the board, I'm probably just going to fire off the Maxx during the draw phase to play around the triple attack there. So I'm going to use both of my Melffys when this Batteryman Solar gets summoned. I get to use the Puppy to summon a Wally, and then I'm going to use Catty to, of course, summon or add the Penny. Now I'm going to sync the Penny and the Puppy specifically to go for Herald of the Arclight. This is mainly to bait my opponent to go to battle phase so they don't extend further, which they actually end up doing, but might not have been necessary as it doesn't seem like they have any more plays after that. So I thought for sure my opponent was going to have something, but I guess not. Anyway, I'm just going to normal summon Penny here and go for Spright Elf. This will give my opponent a Batteryman token because I summoned a Thunder monster, but that's fine. I get to bring back this Wally and now overlay the Wally with the Spright Elf in order to go for a Gigantic Spright. This will have this come out at not only 3,200 attack points, but also get my Spright engine online as we detach for Blue. Blue add Jet, special to Jet, Jet F to grab the starter. Then we can activate our Spright Starter and go for a Spright Red. Don't think I can OTK here, so I'm just going to move to battle phase and smack my opponent's stuff. If I had Pixies and Augusto Phoenix, I could go for an OTK there, but not with this variant, but it's all good. Just gonna go for another Spright Elf and then end by special summoning this Catty. And we still have the Merry Melffys in our X trick that we can go for as a potential disruption option with that, so. You'll note though that I added Hop Ear Squadron actually, and not the Melffy Penny. I think, are both my pennies in the graveyard? I think they are actually. They are, so. Yeah, because both are in the graveyard, we're going to go for Hop Ear Squadron instead. Now we get to use the Wally to go for a Pony and Catty. Pony will get to add Penny to our hand, so now we actually have multiple options to go for a level 4 Synchro. Opponent's actually going to use a splashed Blackwing Tuner to go for a full Armor Master in their Thunder Dragon deck, which is cool. I really appreciate this level of cooking. I think it's cool. I'm going to use the red here to stop this Thunder Dragon Hawk. That way we can hopefully go ahead and not get, beaten down too badly. This also is good bait for my opponent to use the take control effect of the full Armor Master. I'm going to chain the Hop Ear Squadron in order to try to sync it off, but I didn't realize this Blackwing Tuner could also destroy a monster, which it ends up doing. So they do ultimately get to summon their Colossus, but I still have the option to Synchro Summon here with the Penny, which I'm going to take right now. Which is actually a misplay now that I think about it. Well, now that I think about it. Because I totally blanked on the fact that, like, oh yeah, Thunder Dragon Colossus, that summoning effect is not once per turn. So, yeah, my thought process was like, oh, as they're about to go to battle phase, I can just use the Merry Melffys now, get this Colossus off the board, not have to worry about it. But my opponent does still have a Thunder Monster on the field. They actually have two. And unfortunately for me, they get to just sack off this Thunder token, or this Battery Man token here in a minute, to just bring back their Thunder Dragon Colossus to the board. So, a bit of a misplay on my part. Oh, no, sorry, it does have to be the Battery Man Solar. So, we're still going to lose a couple of our monsters, but it's not that big of a deal. We can battle over the Full Wing Armor Master, or the Blackwing Full Armor Master, with this Gigantic Spright, so we do have that going for us at the very least. I'm going to normal summon this Wally and just go for my Merry Melffys yet again. I'm going to, yet again, bounce the Thunder Dragon Colossus. I don't care about this Wedge counter because this full Armor Master doesn't live through the turn. And now our opponent's in top deck mode, and we get to go for some Spright plays. We also have an Ash Blossom in hand, so that's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to top deck out of that as well. Alright, we're going to use Jet to get Smashers here to provide even more disruption for our opponent's upcoming turn. IP Masquerena is going to be the last Link 2 left in my extra deck. Or not the last one, I don't think, but I don't have any more Spright Elves is my main point. So, and finally, we'll throw out this Pony before passing back over to our opponent. Their end board, or their hand is not is not sufficient to deal with our end board, so that's going to be a concede from them. Beautiful. We still have a couple more duels to take a look at. Let's go straight into the next one. Alright, this game is going to be against Dry Tron. Definitely been a minute since I've seen this. I remember too, I just remembered as I'm watching these games that, like, I think another reason why I didn't see as many tier elements is that I was actually at Diamond 5 at the time of recording this. So, yeah, I think that we just generally see more people having fun with, like, more off-meta stuff rather than tier elements at Diamond 5. I think this might be one of those seasons where I just kind of chill on Diamond. I'm not going to try super hard to get to Diamond 1. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I just find that, like, getting to Diamond 1 too early in the meta is not that great for me. Oh, also I want to talk about this turn 1 for a second, because that looked really weird. You might be thinking, Hex, you had so many plays, but you just went to Centurea pass? Yes, the main reason I did that, as I talked about in the deck profile earlier, is that I want to keep my graveyard free of cards because I opened with Dimension Shifter. Particularly with this hand of Shifter, Sea, and Ash Blossom, I'm really looking to use these cards in my hand to disrupt my opponent, and that's going to be more or less my main win con here, right? Is to, like, Shifter, shut my opponent off for this turn, and then make more plays during my next turn for a follow-up OTK. This does kind of assume we're playing against tier elements, but I mean, it's the current Master Duel meta. Of course we can assume we're playing against tier elements, right? It's why we're playing Shifter in the first place, so. I don't know, I don't remember what I was saying before. Oh yeah, I was talking about Diamond, and yeah, I don't know, the past few months I've been getting to Diamond 1 relatively early within the first, like, 10 days of the season. I'm not really trying to do that this time around, though, because, like, I've talked about this quite a bit on the channel before, but this is an exclusively, like, content creation problem. But not exclusively, I don't know. If you're looking to actually have engaging games, like, over the course of a season after you've hit Diamond 1, I guess this is a problem, too. But you just don't have as many engaging games once you've hit Diamond 1. People just, you know, without any more consequence, right? There's just no incentive for people to stick around. Like, it got to a point where, like, you know, I'd be trying to get tier element practice on Diamond 1, and, like, literally as soon as I summoned Rhino Heart, people just concede immediately. And it's like, did we not fight through tier elements, like, to get to this spot anyway? I don't understand. I mean, I guess some people are just tired of it and they're just done with it, but it's like, I don't know. I just rather have the practice and the skill testing if I'm gonna, like, you know, consciously get on ladder to play Master Duel, but that's just me. God, half of this video has just been me ranting about tier limits and not even talking about Melffy Sprights, huh? We do have one more game to look at, though. Let's go straight into it. And our final duel for this video, we're going to be up against Numerons. Good old Numerons. Always around. Ever present, I don't know. Going first, obviously, because it's Numerons. We have another Dimension Shifter hand. If I remember right, this time I didn't actually... Yeah, I just go ahead and activate the Spright Starter here. I think the reason I wanted to do it with this hand is because I had a stronger opening. Well, I don't know actually if I necessarily had a stronger opening than that last hand. It's also possible I just forgot, to be totally honest with you, that I was trying to make a conscious effort to keep my graveyard clean for Dimension Shifter. Although, I guess to be fair, in this particular matchup, Dimension Shifter, I don't think it does anything at all, does it? I don't think anything about the Numerons have to go to the graveyard, do they? Oh wait, maybe they do actually. Doesn't the field spell actually require that you send it to the graveyard? So maybe that actually would have turned it off. Well, in any case, our opponent's got a Gamma and a Droplet, which looks pretty scary, especially once they send the Numeron calling. But I'm thinking to myself, actually, you know, because I have 3 monsters, I think I would actually lose to Network here still, even though they're all in defense mode. Because it'd be like 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 8. Yeah, I would lose, actually, in this case. But thankfully, my opponents, all they have is Gamma and Droplet. They don't have anything else beyond that. They do get to sync for an Omega, but obviously Omega ripping the Dimension Shifter out of my hand at this point is a moot point. It doesn't matter anymore. And yeah, it's going to be a pass back to me after that. Now my opponent has a clear board, and I have 2 level 2 monsters. That means we have the requirements for our Cat Shark OTK. So, for those who don't know how to do this, and this is not exclusive to this variant of Spright, it's any variant of Spright where you've got a Cat Shark in your extra. If you have 2 level 2 monsters, you link them for Spright Elf, use Spright Elf to bring back a level 2 monster. In this case, we brought back Blue, but we don't need to already have Blue in the graveyard. You then overlaid for a Gigantic. Gigantic would summon Blue here if we hadn't already summoned it. Blue for Jet, Jet for another Spright monster. We don't have Red left in our deck, so it's just Carrot at this point. And then we get to overlay for the Cat Shark. Now, Cat Shark will double our 3,200 Gigantic to 64, and the total amount of damage we have on this board is 8,200. So that is going to be enough to finish our opponent off. Beautiful. So there are our games with Melffy Spright. Again, I do apologize. I let, you know, some of them be just kind of, you know, talking about the state of tier limits in the current meta rather than talking about the games. But I kind of want to make them more, like, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about making more of a, like, video essay style, or, like, at least closer to a video essay style, like, to what I do. Where I talk about, like, the impact that tier limits and their presence are having on, like, player morale. I mean, I notice it not only within myself, but I notice on the channel too. I mean, you know, I definitely notice, and I don't usually like to talk about this, but, like, I do notice that less people are watching and subscribing overall ever since tier limits came into meta. And, like, honestly, I kind of don't blame people for not being as interested in following competitive Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment. But as long as there is Yu-Gi-Oh to be played, I will definitely be covering it. So that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Let's move now to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as, like, constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, And then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Xlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.